In today's video, we're going to go through 5 strangers' profiles on LinkedIn and we're going to rank them in terms of how well they have their profile optimized. We're going to look at 5 different criteria for each, and they're going to be their profile picture, their banner, their headline, their featured section, and their about sections. So at the end of that, we'll have a good overview of what does a good LinkedIn profile look like, hopefully, if we find one, and what are some of the things that a lot of people can improve with their LinkedIn profiles. So let's jump straight in. All right, cool. So we are on my LinkedIn feed, and I'm just going to randomly select some of the people to rank in there. So Niall seems like somebody that could potentially be building and scaling businesses. I think that is going to be an interesting candidate in here. Let's just start with him. Okay, right. So let's have a look. So at the first sight, some of the things that stand out to me is, first of all, even though obviously Niall has a lot of followers, the rules still do apply, no matter whether you have 1,000 followers or if you have 100,000. If people can't clearly associate you with what you're doing in your LinkedIn profile, even if you have a lot of followers, you could be succeeding despite the actual things that you're doing. So for Niall, the first thing that I'm noticing is that it's really hard to see his face. He has an image showing his entire body, which I wouldn't recommend. Instead, what I would go for is I would just take this picture as we have it right here. I would just like zoom in into his face and just get that part. Maybe a bit of shoulders, maybe a bit of, well, obviously a bit of neck as well. But it's hard to associate face with his brand super fast. You have to think about who is this person. Also, there is not that much of a contrast between like his face and hair and the background, so that also makes it harder to look at it. Next, his banner. First thing is, the only thing that I see is one more hypothesis, and obviously I have a pretty large screen, but you know, some other people are also going to be using different devices to display the profile. So in his case, well, I would say one more hypothesis. If it's still scientific, I don't really know what is it that he does. And then, yeah, if I don't already know him, it's hard to know what is it that he's building. What is the actual company that he's doing personate? Doesn't say much at all, right? So if we zoom in properly, we should be able to see life sciences innovation equipment. Thistle Scientific. I have no clue what the company is about. And I don't think it's a good impression for a stranger that's not even on your profile, because you really only have one chance and you're going to have a couple of seconds for them to decide whether you're worth following, right? So next we have building and scaling businesses, documenting everything along the way. To be frank with you, this sounds like a headline of somebody who's building something in stealth mode or not really promoting their product actively. Because if that was the headline for somebody who's actively trying to promote stuff with their content, it just doesn't say anything. It's just saying something about him, but it's not saying anything about his potential audience, right? So this is not the greatest headline at all, right? Moving on to the next section, which is the featured section. So for the featured sections, the best thing that you can do is to have one of 3. So first, you want to have, if you have a direct offer, you might just want to have a straight book a call link in there so that people can actually just go ahead and schedule a consultation with you. Second of all, if you have a good lead magnet, feel free to also drop it in there. It's actually one of the greatest strategies to build your own audience off of LinkedIn. Super good. And then the third one that you can do in there is if you have some kind of a low ticket product or something that are selling cheaper than your bigger engagement, you can also put a link in there. I've seen some of the people do it successfully. I wouldn't really recommend pinning your post unless you're literally standing next to the president or something that like massively boosts your credibility straight up. In this case, yeah, right. So there's a partnership announcement. There's, well, I don't even know what this post is saying here. I would have to click on it. It just states that it has a lot of reactions, right? Again, not the greatest, could have been done better for if they're trying to promote their product. Next one, we have the about section. So my story is about Polish entrepreneur. My journey has been traditional. I left school without English qualification, uncertain what the future held. That failure shaped me. It forced me to think differently, fell into business, far forward to the gig. Today, I'm growing and scaling businesses while sharing lessons that come from it. Right, so I think this person, Niall, I don't think he's really trying to promote anything in here. If you were trying to promote your product, the about section is the best place where you can actually drop a few lines about yourself, tell why you're qualified to do certain things, drop a lot of proof, name proof as much as possible, like who are the clients or customers they work with, who are the results they got them. And then it's another one of these funnels where you can basically gather attention and channel it towards a person booking a call at the end. So overall, I would say it's probably a 1 out of 5 profile. At the end of the day, it just is there, and Niall clearly has a following. but this is not how you would promote a product. It just is a person with a large following that's probably building something different right now. Again, If it works for him, fantastic. This is not what I would recommend. Moving on, let's find another person in our feed. Who are we going to look at? Let's look at somebody who's professional. So let's look at Cole Gordon. If you know Cole Gordon, he's a pretty big figure on some of the other platforms. I think on Instagram or YouTube, he has large audiences. So let's look at his LinkedIn profile. So built my company closers from 0 to 30 million a year in 26 months, helping high-end service-based businesses build elite sales teams. Great headline. It's basically straight up saying, what does he do? Who does he help? What's his credibility? It can stay as it is, right? You could argue that he could make some like stylistic changes. Like maybe this arrow could have been like a proper arrow symbol that doesn't require you to type 2 M dashes, or maybe he could use a vertical bar. But no, like this is a good headline. This is what a headline should look like. When it comes to Cole's profile picture, what I would do instead of this headshot, I would simply zoom it into his face, because this is kind of showing him biceps up, and maybe part of his play is just to show his guns. In that case, yeah, go ahead, Cole. I think zooming it in would make it even easier for people to associate Cole's face with his profile. As you can see, like Layla and Alex Hormozy, that's exactly what they're doing, because they're leaving no doubt who is the person that you're seeing on the picture. You don't have to think at all, because you recognize the face immediately. When it comes to the banner, I would say this isn't a great banner. It doesn't really say anything. It's kind of a throwaway banner, I would say. It could be way more optimized for what is he actually helping people with. So here he could either list some of the client results that he got, list the direct offer that he's doing, so helping high-end service businesses build elite sales teams. But unless somebody already knows what Closers.io does, like people won't really be able to tell like what is this all about. So I would say the banner could be definitely one of the things that I would improve in here. Now, Cole doesn't have any featured section. And when we look at his content, it actually looks like he's not really writing content for LinkedIn. He's just repurposing what he's already been doing on other platforms, which is for the size of his following that he has on other platforms, it could be way bigger, but he's just using it the same way he would use Twitter or Instagram, which is not the most LinkedIn efficient way. When it comes to his about section, this is a good about section. This is really good. This is actually a very good about section, right? So starting with the proof line, then what is exactly what the business is doing, then just dropping a lot of big names. So massive social proof, right? Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, a bunch of big names in the industry, especially relevant to the sales teams that he's kind of working around. What we do at Closers.io, right? So he's explaining his entire offer and ending it with a call to action to book a call. I would say that's like a 10 out of 10 about section. So in Cole's case, 3 things that I would really do is just zoom in more into his picture, change his banner to be more aligned with the offer that he's doing, or even more branded. I know, like, well, in some way he's showing probably the team or whoever these people are in there. Maybe it's his team or these are some of the reps that he's training, but it's not super, like it's not self-explanatory by you looking at it. So this is what I would improve. And then I would simply add some of the featured items, that just a simple branded link to book a call. It would be super easy for him. And then you'd be able to get people to simply be booking calls from there. And I'm sure Cole has some good lead magnets, so he could also put it in there. So overall, I would say Cole, I would give him 3.5 out of 5, just because it's very strong. It's obviously a mega entrepreneur with a great offer, but there are still things that even he could improve to make even more out of LinkedIn. Right, let's carry on. We still have 3 to go. So let's go and check out another one. Maybe let's take apart one of the people that are gonna land in my feed. Let's look at Bill. Bill is one of my connections. What would I do if I were working with Bill? So first of all, when the room doesn't work, nothing else matters. I have no idea what does it mean. Trusted advocate for churches and performance venues, acoustics, technology, and human-centered design. So from this, I can somehow infer, if I read through the entire headline, that he's helping churches build AV or like audio systems inside in there. Right? It's not super clear just from the way he wrote the headline. So what I would change it to would probably be something more like acoustics, technology, and human-centered design for churches and performance venues. And then any social proof that he can attach to it, or any of the results that he's already generated for his clients. Right? Next thing is I would use, in this case, this is a good headshot, by the way. I would zoom in a little bit just to kind of cut off some of his chest and just like properly zoom in more into his face. I would also probably use AI just to remove the background behind him, because it's distracting and it shouldn't be. should be either neutral, so like white or grayish, or be using his brand colors. And I think his brand colors are black and white anyways. So just, okay, well, actually, I think this could be his logo to the left, right? That's one possibility. In that case, I would still remove it just because it's not super clear. It's actually cutting through the logo. It's not showing the entire thing. I don't think there's a reason to put the logo in the background. I would simply make it gray or the color of this wall in here. I think it will be a much clearer profile picture. Next, when it comes to the banner, technology designs that perform exactly as intended. Right. So I think that's for the churches that he's working with. So, oh gosh, first of all, the font here is way too small because I have to zoom in properly, and still the quality then isn't enough to really read all of the lines in there. I'll probably just put the logo as a bigger one and just keep this line. So technology designs that perform exactly as intended, and maybe some social proof that he has, or change the wording to be more relevant to his target buyers, which seem to be churches and performance venues, right? So this is what I would do for Bill's banner. Next, he doesn't have any featured section. In the featured section, I would simply put a link to book a call with him, schedule a consultation, and then depending on whether he has a lead magnet or not, that's also something that I would include. When it comes to the about section, that is the first thing that comes to mind is looking at it. It's a huge chunk of text. It makes it really difficult to read through the entire thing. And you don't want to be doing that. Obviously, you want to format your about section the same way you'd format a post, right? So you want to be having separate lines and like have empty lines in between the lines. You want to keep it at a good rhythm so that somebody can read it somewhat fast. And yeah, I'll actually have to read through it to understand what exactly like he's putting in here. Normally, I should just be able to glance at it. I already have like 70% of the concept. So there's a moment in every space to build to communicate where the gap is between envision what gets built, start open, what is happening, expensive to close. So he's basically giving a rundown of his career. Okay, right. So without knowing too much in detail about Bill's situation, what I would say is I would focus more on starting with the first line. This is like, I started this company to help A, B, and C, right? A, B, C. And then the next thing that I would say is like quick rundown of my experience. So like, here's what I've been doing, like what got me here. Don't focus the entire about section about you. Focus it more about your prospect, because that's really what the about section is about. So then straight after the section about you specifically, I would just put in there any client results that I got, any big names they were working with, or any significant projects they were a part of that would be relevant to your buyers, right? At the end of the day, we want to be relevant to our buyers. So this is how we're going to be structuring that. And at the end, right, so reach me directly at my cell or email. That's helpful. However, I'll still include a calendar link just because it's a faster way and it's less friction for a lot of buyers to just book a call. Although if he's selling to an older audience, possibly just including the cell number is going to be enough. So overall for Bill, I would say the profile is probably 2 out of 5. So, or maybe even 1 out of 5. I would simply, unfortunately, I would say it's just 1 out of 5. I would say the first thing, make sure the profile picture is clear, no messy background, or even no half cut through logo. Zoom in a little bit in the banner, add the featured section, change up the about section, and improve the headline so that it speaks directly to your ICP. So that's it for Bill, and we have 2 more to go. Let's look at some of the other people that we have. Maybe we'll find somebody who already looks like they have their stuff figured out, so we could have some really good example for what actually great looks like. So Victoria, that's her second time in here. Let's give her a shot. Okay, wow, that's gonna be super clear. Please, what it looks like. So first of all, good profile picture, really clear. I would still zoom it in just a slightly bit, but actually it's already good because it has a distinct background, it has a distinct color, it even has a grid in here, which makes it super high quality. It's a really good profile picture, smiling, beautiful facial expression. We really have this one figured out. Then the banner, I would say this is what a good banner looks like. Super clear offer is exactly what they're doing, and a clear call to action. Ready? DM me, grow, right? So one thing that I would change the CTA to, instead of DMing grow, I would actually just go book a call in the featured section, simply because for people who aren't connected to Victoria, it's going to be hard for them to reach her. And if there's going to be any friction, most of the time they're just not going to take any action. So what I would do, jumping straight to the featured section, is simply add the book a call link into her featured section and keep it at 2 items, right? So this one seems like a lead magnet, right? It's a YouTube video, but it looks like a full course. So if it's going through an extensive framework, it looks like a good lead magnet, right? So this is exactly what I would do. Add the calendar link in there for people to be able to book. And then let's look at the headline. So ad businesses and course creators scale to 100K a month using meta ads and growth as trademarked. 5 million client revenue, DM grow to see how. Fantastic headline, really good one. Again, my only feedback would be the DM me something isn't the best way unless you have a huge following and you have already all of your prospects connected with you. In Victoria, she has a pretty big following, to be frank with you. However, still, I think it would be better just for people to book calls. But leaving it up to her, it's a really good headline. Next, the about section is, hey there, legend, if you're an educational business. So calling their ICP directly, really good. Growing in business, I get it. Old marketing. So she's basically like that. That's a really good about section. The only thing that's actually missing is saying a little bit about her, because this is also what the about section should be about. Yes, it is about her prospect. In her case, actually 100% of the real estate is for her prospect. I would simply add a few lines about like why she qualified, or what's her life story, because actually she is saying why she qualified simply by showing the client results that she got, which is fantastic, right? I would simply add like who I am, like a bit of my story, 2-3 lines. And they're perfect. So I would say overall, this is a 4.5 out of 5. LinkedIn profile, really well optimized. Only minor changes that I would put in there. It's a really good profile. And I think it might be printing for Victoria. So that's really good. All right. So let's have a look at the last profile and let's have a look at my guy Shalom here. I don't even know him. Let's have a look. So what is he doing? Your brand, your offer, our sales engine. Founder-led execution, not theory. Sounds like he's selling some kind of a the first commission-based sales agency. Super clean in the headline. Okay, so jumping in. First of all, the profile picture, really nice, branded. It seems, at least in my device, I think it's low resolution. It could definitely be higher resolution. It would be easier to associate his face with it. I would still zoom in more on his face. So probably cut a bit of the shoulder and just make the face cover pretty much like 80% of the space here, right? So then for the banner, our brand, your offer. Your brand, your offer, our sales engine, founder-led execution, not theory. Your brand, your offer, our sales engine. I think this is a good clear line to have in your banner. Founder-led execution, not theory. Not the biggest fan of it, just because it even sounds AI like this, not that. You know the spiel, right? Not X, not Y, but Z. I'd kind of try to avoid that. The logo here doesn't also seem too centered, so it might have been that the banner was generated in a different resolution and then it got pretty much cropped, right? So that's only in here. I would make it a little smaller and put it more towards the left. It's more of a graphic design feedback here, but this line here, so founder-led execution, not theory, I would just change to book a consultation call or something like that, so that people could just go to your featured section and do exactly that, right? Which is he's actually practicing what I preach here, which is have your link in your featured section, book your free 30-minute strategy call, right? Strategy or consultation call. Everybody knows the spiel. If you're signing up, you're basically coming to a sales call, but this is exactly what people need if they're already following his content and they trust him. One more thing, obviously here for the featured section, I'll probably add some kind of a lead magnet or anything else he has, but just keeping that is probably the best that you can do, right? If you just have the calendar link, that's the best one thing that can have your featured section. I would have 2 items in there, but if you're just gonna have one, make sure that it's the calendar link. So next, let's look at the whole headline. So the first commission-based sales agency, we perfect your sales system, then build and run the team that scales it long-term. Co-founder, super strong offer, by the way. It's a really good offer for an agency, right? So they're commission-based, they're building out the sales team for the long term for different companies. I think it's really interesting, right? So and then the title. I would say this is probably the perfect tagline that you can have, right? Clearly stating the offer, clearly stating the differentiation. Overall, 5 out of 5 headline. The about section. Let's have a look at that. So this is clearly AI generated. Just looking at the sentence structure, I know it's AI generated. Not the best vibe that I can give in your about section. Founders sell early, results, yeah. Right. So what I would do with the about section is I would first of all put in some proof if you have any. Obviously, like try to name the clients that I work with, try to name the results that I generated them, and remove any of these AI lines. I see no reason to put them in there. Instead, what I would do is simply introduce myself, like what's my background in sales, like if I were Shalom, and simply say what made you start the company, any of these things. That's what put in there. Then the results that I got for clients, and then making it super easy to book a call. I wouldn't put the phone, well, okay, fair enough. Depending on the industry that he's working with, maybe the phone number and the email actually do work. But considering that he already has just the featured link below that, I would say it's okay to not include the link in the about section. In any other case, I would also include simply the calendar link for people to book in here. So overall, the about section, I wouldn't say it's too good. It's probably like a 2 out of 5 because he's at least saying what they're doing, right? So he's explaining the process offer that he's already selling. So I would just make sure there's more proof. I would change some of the design elements and improve the about section a little bit. Remove any like AI elements from it. I think it's gonna be really good. So ladies and gentlemen, that was the 5 LinkedIn profiles teardown audit. If you want me to do more of these, let me know in the comments below. I'm going to do more of these similar videos in the future. And until we see each other on the next one, have an amazing rest of your day. Take care. Cheers.